It's hard to process and imagine everything that has transpired in Michigan in the last 24 or so hours, but we'll do our best to try to summarize it. And essentially, the coaches and players were brought in at separate times yesterday to be let known that the school was firing Sherrone Moore. Michigan decided to fire Sherrone Moore with cause. It says he had an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. You could only imagine what was going through Sherrone Moore's mind when this particular situation unfolded yesterday. And so there have been whispers at the school about things that were and weren't happening, salacious stuff. Who knew what was real and what was not? I believe HR looked into the situation and found that there was no wrongdoing. But clearly something changed this week. Clearly some sort of irrefutable evidence in the school's mind emerged that left them no choice in their minds but to move on from Sherrone Moore. And so they made the decision yesterday to fire him for cause, the first black coach in the history of the school let go. Now, we have not heard from Sherrone Moore, but he's had his life upended. Obviously, it's connected to some of the judgment he had, but I think he would have his say in this particular situation and feel like people had it in for him. So we'd like to hear what he has to say over time. But yesterday, after he was let go, he then was detained and kept overnight in a Washtenaw County jail for an alleged assault incident. So there are layers to this. He is the father of 3 young girls. They just had a baby over the summer. You could imagine what life in that family must be like. And here's a guy whose professional and personal lives got completely upended yesterday, in large part because of some of the judgments that he made, but we haven't heard from him. And now Michigan, without a full-time school president, is left in the position of having to embark upon a head coaching search that is not at an ideal time on a college calendar, and yet it's the type of program and job that would attract almost anybody.
An excellent summation of what we actually know, and that's what we will deal in here. We'll deal in what we know. If there are any further developments as far as the legal side of this story are concerned, we will, of course, pass them along immediately. In the meantime, as a sports show, the sports piece of this is what we are equipped to talk about. You just mentioned there's an interim president in place. So one wonders, as they embark upon this coaching search, who leads it? Ward Manuel is the athletic director. Should we assume he's the person who makes the decision here? How do the mechanics of this search get underway?
It's complicated. It's layered. I would think Ward would be at the forefront of it. That remains to be seen. I would think there'll be a group of regents that have some say. I would think the interim president will have some say. There'll be a lot of people. I don't know exactly who ultimately makes the decision. I would guess Ward Manuel, the athletic director, ultimately makes the decision, but there's a lot that's still unfolding there at Michigan as it digs out of this entire situation.
Okay, so I'll bring the rest of our crew, Schefter. Let's go to the desk, and we'll bring everybody into the conversation. Our regular Thursday crew is here, and I wanted to get Josh Pate into the conversation as well as we turn our attention to who might become the next football coach at Michigan, which is one of the highest profile athletic brands in the United States. And we get into, Josh, if you're just joining us here, good morning. We got into like almost a musical chairs game here as we started running through the names. Kalen DeBoer's name comes up quickly in the conversation here. He is the head football coach at Alabama. For those who don't know, they play a playoff game in 8 days against Oklahoma. If for some reason he becomes in play at at Michigan, now that sets into motion any number of other scenarios. So Josh Pate, sitting from where you sit as the de facto commissioner of college football, and Lord knows they need one, how would you describe where we are right now as far as Michigan's vacancy and all the other dominoes that could fall from there?
Really foggy, Greeny. I'm in Nashville right now. I'm looking out my window. It's foggy. That's kind of the Michigan situation. There's this whole other much more important layer to it that you guys just very properly summarized. So as far as the coaching search angle, Adam Schefter put it very, very succinctly there when he said there are layers to this and it's very complicated and there are a lot of gray areas. For example, who's going to lead the search? Who's in charge? Do I have a permanent president on the horizon? Is Ward Manuel, who, all due respect to Ward, has been athletic director over an athletic department that has had several scandals over the past few years, going to be the one running point now and moving forward? I'm asking questions not from myself. I'm giving you the kind of feedback I got from agents and coaches over the past 24 hours who may or may not be involved in this kind of search, because you are right, Greeny. That is one of the premier brands in college football. in a vacuum, it's one of the best jobs in college football. These guys want certainty, and these guys want alignment. And you can't promise me you've got it right now at Michigan. So until those questions get answered behind the scenes, it's really hard to put a coaching hot board together. Kenny Dillingham, Kalen DeBoer, anybody worth their salt is going to want those questions answered before they even start to go down the road to taking that job.
One of the things we debated earlier here was just how critical expediency is in this circumstance. Some might look at this and say, you've got to try and hold on to the recruits that just signed from all over the country in the last week. And the transfer portal opens up in 3 weeks or whatever it is, so they need to have someone in place quickly. The flip side of that is it's much more important to get the right guy than to get the most available guy. How would you anticipate the speed of this search taking place?
Take as long as it takes. Don't hurry up and get it wrong. Take your time, get it right, get your affairs in order internally, and then go after the most qualified candidate. And if that happens in the third week in January, but you're set for the future, so be it. And understand also in college football, the entire structure's changed a little bit to where if you just signed with Michigan, you can request the release from your letter of intent, but really your recourse is enter the portal in January. If you're on the roster right now and you don't like this and you want to leave and get a fresh start, that's okay. You enter the portal in January. So really, if we're talking about a key date, you kind of telegraphed it there. You're circling that first couple of weeks in January, that portal window. So if we're working on a timetable for Michigan and you do want to beat that clock, that's the clock you're racing, which means if you're chasing a playoff coach, you've got your fingers crossed that he doesn't go to the national championship game and that he's eliminated in the first couple of rounds.
And all the great alumni from the University of Michigan, you are the president, you are the AD at Michigan. Who is the guy that you are targeting as the next coach of the Michigan football program?
Well, the first one I would target got hired by Penn State a few days ago, so I'm going to assume that's off the table, and so that would be Matt Campbell. The next guy that I would have gone after is at the University of Alabama. I would make Kalen DeBoer tell me no, and I would make him tell me no, Schefter, because he comes from my part of the country. I think he understands the gravity of the kind of job that Michigan is because he understands the kind of gravity of the job that Alabama is. Now, what you don't know that is widely speculated in the market is, will he even listen to me? But I'm Michigan, so I've got that block M on my chest. So I've got the audacity to think anyone would listen to me, and that would be the first one, and then I would work my way down the list from there.
Okay, so you said you have the audacity to think that anybody would listen to you, and you also said, I would assume that Matt Campbell is off the table, but you didn't say he is off the table. Do you think there's any way that there's a possibility that Matt Campbell could get introduced into this?
I think there's a chance that they could pursue him. Now, we just sat through an introductory press conference at Penn State. Matt is all about loyalty. It was tough to peel him away from Iowa State, so I don't know how his mind would even process that. I can tell you if you hit the rewind button 3 weeks from today and this was introduced, then yeah, Matt Campbell would be a prime candidate for the Michigan job. So you've dealt with this stuff before where a guy takes a job and then there's another job that would have been very desirable that enters the blender right afterwards. And it's so awkward. Like, how do you play it out? What's right? What's wrong? I don't know, man. I personally would struggle with it, but I've never been in that position.
So if we're going to go, and let's bring it out to the table here and get the guys in and start with the Bussin guys. If we're going to go this way, then you might as well just go the entire way. If we're going to speculate about the possibility that Matt Campbell could wind up leaving Penn State to go to Michigan before he ever coaches a game, then that leads us to all the way down the line to Kalen DeBoer leaving Alabama, maybe during the college football playoff to go coach Michigan, and the possibility that Alabama comes open. And what did you bring up if that should be the case?
Lane Kiffin. If DeBoer leaves Alabama and that Alabama job comes open, we would not be surprised if Lane Kiffin gets back in the conversation of potentially flipping and going to Alabama, which is, again, there were talks of him wanting the Alabama job and seeing what would happen between that Auburn-Alabama game in the Iron Bowl. It didn't work out. He goes to LSU. But if the Alabama job comes open, why wouldn't he be in that conversation?
Yeah, Pate, this is more your world than mine. I'm used to covering pro sports, which seem comparatively civilized when you consider the conversations we're having here.
There are rules in place in pro sports.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Stop us if we should not even be stop us if that's a conversation that's not even worth having on TV.
No, buddy, I'm about to sign you up over at On3. I'm going to get you one of these message board accounts. You need to live in this world. This is what it's like every day in this world. So Will Compton said, there were rumors that Lane Kiffin coveted the Alabama job. Brother, those aren't rumors. He outright coveted the Alabama job. That's the red Sharpie circle, but it's about timing. Okay, he just took the LSU job. Also, we don't know if the Alabama job is going to come open, so let me rewind just a second. I will say, there is this thing that's floated around because it hasn't been tamped down. And it started with the Penn State search, and it will probably continue in the Michigan search. And it's about Kalen DeBoer. And it's about him secretly being miserable at Alabama. So I don't know who the sourcing is on that. I can tell you, I've sat in Kalen DeBoer's office, both on record with him on camera and off record, just looking him in the eye. I've asked him about that point blank. This is a guy who's a pretty straight shooter, and he has been effusive in his praise of what it's been like to move there. So I'm not saying that's definitive. I'm just saying I kind of trust my source on that because my source is the guy himself. I don't know what the folks on talk radio and message board know that I don't about that.
Gotten a comment in. Taylor, go.
Yeah, I think when it comes to hiring at the University of Michigan, you have to bring in somebody with an extremely strong backbone and understand that there's a lot of people with their hands on the block M. So if you're going to come in, you have to be able to take a lot of criticism. You have to understand that everyone's going to watch everything you do every single week in the fall. And if Kalen DeBoer is that guy, it's like, the only thing I'm pushing back on with Josh Pate is get it done now. Like, get it done before this tampering period, the transfer portal, all that, because you were the youngest team in the Big Ten this season. You were the youngest team. You had 3 redshirt offensive linemen, redshirt freshman offensive linemen. Your best wide receiver was a true freshman. You have a true freshman quarterback. Like, you have the opportunity to bring a guy in that can develop, bring his players, and use the transfer portal to be a true competitor next year in 2026.
I agree. I think you get it done fast. I wish whenever you become commissioner, Pate, I want the portal to open up for players on a team where their coach gets fired immediately. Because that will put a little fire under the university's butt to make sure they bring the right guy in, because I came there specifically for that guy. And I would also request a portal for coaches, because I'm also saying I think Cignetti should be one of the first calls that the University of Michigan makes, but he just signed a contract. Mike Campbell signed a contract. Lane Kiffin signed a contract. They should get a portal as well, because someone has to end this wild, wild west that is college football on both sides.
It's Kalen DeBoer. And if there's an even remote interest, I don't go anywhere else. I don't care about extensions. And if it's a no, then it's Clark Lee, then it's Mike Elko, it's everybody. I don't care if those guys just signed new deals with their schools. That does not matter to me if I'm Michigan. I'm Michigan. The last thing I'm going to do is hire somebody that sells them to me. That's not how this works. I'm Michigan. I go get who I want.
You are not Michigan. You are UConn. We are Michigan.
We are. Hey, by the way, Greeny. Willie Schefter just got a text from his phone. Somebody you can add to the list. Jeff Brom, the head coach at Louisville.
The names are getting thrown around like mad. Pate, you are the best. Thank you for being there.
Right,
We'll make a very quick phone call.